Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and man, I really appreciate each and every one of you guys making some time to check today's video out and supporting the channel and using all the links I have in my description to support the channel. It's just very grateful for that, so welcome everybody. Guys, today I want to have a little discussion about an interview that Rob Terkla did. Now Rob is I think he's the largest bass fishing YouTuber out there. He's got, I think, 2 million YouTube subscribers. And I think he's owner, and I believe that he's in some of the Guggen Squad businesses. And he did an interview on Trade and Chris Zaldain's Bilge podcast last week. Guys, if you watch one podcast this week, I would highly suggest that you watch that one. It was super enlightening. Now, I have watched Rob. I've seen him over the last couple of years. I'm pretty familiar with who he is, but I never had a chance to listen to him talk for as long as he did. Guys, I am super impressed with that guy. That guy is sort of like Trade and Chris Zaldain. He's so in tune with this fishing industry and the pulse of it and where it's headed, that this interview was one of the most enlightening discussions I have ever heard in a podcast before. And specifically, what I wanted to talk about today was they got into a topic. They were talking about the value of pro anglers versus social media influencers and how things have changed with that. And then I want to comment a little bit more on sort of how I see that going there. Now, the thing about this, guys, is Rob was making a point, and this is something that, if you're familiar with the industry, a lot of people are aware of, but he was making the point in reference and in detail like I'd never heard it before, about how the way that the sport is morphing. It's like pro anglers just do not have that much value anymore as professional anglers, as far as brand building avenues. That they used to be the only brand building avenue that there was, but now not so much. I mean, social media influencers, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook have completely taken over that. And he was talking about, from his business perspective, as far as, a company that sponsors anglers, about, how they're sort of phasing out their sponsorship of bass fishermen simply because they don't have a return on the investment that they put into that. And I think that this is something that this needs to be brought to people's awareness all the time, as far as how this is changing, because it has a huge impact on the future of tournament fishing in this country. A huge impact. And what's going to happen is after I saw that interview that he gave with that, it made me realize that I think that professional bass fishing as we know it, the very existence of professional bass fishing tournaments, I think their days may be numbered to some extent. And what I mean by this is talk about exactly what I mean by this, in the fact that when the industry has transformed to the point of which professional anglers cannot earn any sponsorship dollars or retainers from their traditional sense of bringing value to a company through tournament fishing, and they have to do it through social media, then what happens is that creates a situation where there's less and less and less people that can actually afford to be tournament anglers. And it's sort of a vicious cycle, because like what Rob and Chris and Trate were saying, is that if a professional angler realizes this and they try to put more emphasis in building their social media presence and building a bigger YouTube following or whatever, if they put that energy into that area over fishing, they can't compete in fishing. They get their butts kicked. So in essence, it's a very vicious cycle. It's like, if you want to survive in the sport of professional fishing, you can't do it as far as a sponsorship standpoint from a fishing perspective. You have to do it from a social media influencer perspective, which takes away your focus off the game and it makes you less competitive. Now, this is how I see this turning out, as far as in the short term or long term, is it's basically going to transform the sport in a direction we've never seen before, and it's already taken place in terms of the financial disparity and the financial advantage that certain anglers have over the others. Because what I'm talking about here is, if what Rob is saying is manifesting, which it is, I've seen it evidenced myself, so there's nothing for me to believe that it's not going to continue. as Rob mentioned, that the value of a professional angler goes down each year with the growth of social media. It's more difficult for an angler to obtain sponsorships. The anglers out there that rely on winnings and sponsorships are slowly going to be weeded out, because, you know, the tournament winnings are a money pit, guys. There's 5% of the people that actually make a profit in bass fishing tournaments. 95% of the guys out there are losing money every year, and they rely on sponsorships to subsidize that. But if what Rob is talking about continues to accelerate, which it is, then the value of those the ability of those professional anglers to actually earn enough money through sponsorship, retainers, and partnerships to allow them to continue fish is not going to be there. And what you're going to have is you're going to have this increasingly prevalent reality of the elitism, the financial elitism in bass fishing. You're going to have people out there, and it's already turned into this a little bit, that they have wealthy families that back them at a young age. They have businesses that they can fall back on. And those are the only people, in my opinion, we are going to get to the point in professional fishing where the only people that fish professionally at the top level are the people that come from wealthy families or have some type of an independent outside source of income. The days of dudes like myself that didn't have any money starting out, climbing the ladder to being a pro angler, are going to be done with. You simply cannot afford to do it. Because let's take, for example, an aspiring, 18-year-old kid that just wants to fish, bass fish, and wants to make a career out of it. And say he doesn't have much money. Say he doesn't have, wealthy parents. He doesn't have a business or anything. He just has a family that gets by paying their bills, no extra money. In order for this guy to get to the top level, which is a Bassmaster Elite Series, he's got to compete in 9 opens. And in order to compete in 9 opens, you are going to have, I'm sure, I think the entry is like $1,600 or $1,800. So you're talking, quite a bit of money in entries, expenses. So you're going to have right off the bat a minimum of $50,000 just to fish the tournaments. That's not including having to have a truck and having to have a boat that is tournament quality and all your other expenses. How does an 18-year-old kid afford to have, let's say, a minimum of $100,000? Let's say you got a $25,000 boat and a $25,000 truck, and you're paying $50,000 to fish the 9 opens. You're still in it for $100,000. How many 18-year-old kids out there that have a mom that is a school teacher and a dad that works a normal job and that are just getting by paying their bills can afford to foot the $100,000 bill for their 18-year-old kid? The only people that do that are wealthy people out there. And that's where the sport is headed to. And Rob made a very good point. He didn't directly point to that, what I'm pointing now, but the way that he outlined how the fishing industry is morphing, it basically points to the fact that this sport is becoming more and more and more an elitist sport, and it will continue to be so at the top levels there. So the point is what's the answer to this? Is like, what can be done with it? And a lot of it is just, I don't know if anything that can be done, because everybody wants their hand in the honey jar there. It's like there's more and more tournament organizations, there's more and more tournaments out there, the payouts are less, the expenses are more, the competition's greater out there, it's harder to stand out, the money's not there for sponsorships out there. And as a result, like I said, it's just the wealthy people are going to be able to do it. So until we can institute some type of a paradigm shift in this industry that allows people to get into the sport that do not have the financial advantages afforded to other people out there, it's sort of like a dark era for the sport, because I don't ever want it to get to the point where somebody like myself that just lived and breathed it can never do it because it's unaffordable. That's to me is just sickening, that we would reach a state into the sport where it's at, and that's sort of the direction it's headed to there. So anyway, guys, just a few quick thoughts on that. If you get a chance, watch that interview. I'll include the link in the description to Rob Terkla's interview with Chris and Trey Zaldane there. It's really worth the watch. Again, I'm super impressed with the guy. The guy is one of the smartest people that I've heard as far as his pulse on the fishing industry. Well worth your time to watch it. So hope you guys are well. We'll talk later.